Use your powers for evil.
Evil? Your evil is mine.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of Next Stop Everywhere, your podcast all about Doctor Who, Christmas presents, and the once-a-year Doctor Who episode. I am one of your hosts, Jesse Jackson, and joining me is my partner in time and my partner in crime, Charles Skaggs. Hey, Charles.
Hey, Jesse, how are you?
I am fine. You know, if we only recorded when there was a new Doctor Who episode, we would have had a long hiatus, would we have not?
Yes, we would have. But thankfully, obviously we've got 50 plus years of Doctor Who to draw on, not to mention some Big Finish audio. So for everybody that's been very patient with us this past year, in between this long hiatus, in between new Doctor Who episodes, hopefully your long wait has been rewarded, because now we're back with the return of Dr. Mysterio, the very first and only Doctor Who episode of 2016.
You know, and it is a little strange that we've gone a whole year without getting a new episode, right?
Right. Obviously, Doctor Who hiatuses or hiati, I don't know. They obviously sometimes can be like several months. We've had, a year and a half, or, like when, say, the show gets canceled and it has to be brought back.
Right.
That was a long hiatus. So 1 year, we can do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And obviously we proved that. So now we obviously, after this episode, we have to wait about 4 more months for Series 10 to debut, but we actually got a first look at that, which one of the things we'll talk about.
Absolutely.
Later in the episode.
Yes, so you had a fairly good Christmas, I take it?
I did
Good.
until last night, where my poor cat Keiko is up at the vet's. Hopefully things will be better, and hopefully she'll be home soon.
Good.
So we got our fingers crossed. So please keep my cat Keiko in your thoughts.
Absolutely.
Whenever you hear this, and otherwise had a great Christmas. Had
Good.
fun with the Christmas special, and
Yes.
looking forward to talking about it.
Absolutely. So let's get right into it. Give me your quick thoughts on the episode.
Okay, so obviously first, this was once again written by showrunner Stephen Moffat. I believe this is his, 7th Christmas special he's written?
I would think, I haven't counted, but I'm going to believe you.
Yeah, let's just go with 7. 7's good. So it's been a while, and obviously I think at this point Moffat has written so many Christmas specials, he decided, okay, let's write a Christmas special that really doesn't have much to do about Christmas.
I totally agree with that, Charles. One of the things I've said over the years that I like the Christmas special to feel Christmassy, because in the past, under Russell T Davies, they were on Christmas, they weren't absolutely feeling Christmassy.
Right.
Some of them did, some of them didn't. But I like this one a lot.
Yeah, I feel the same. I enjoyed this one quite a bit. I know you certainly did.
Yeah.
And we were live tweeting about it last night on Twitter. So
Yes.
So if you follow us both on Twitter, you get a little sneak preview of our Next Stop Everywhere.
Absolutely.
Thoughts. But and this one was directed by Ed Bezalgeti, and this has a couple of notable guest stars in this one.
Please share.
Yeah, we have first off, the foremost, we have Justin Chatwin as Grant slash the Ghost, and you may, if you're an Orphan Black fan, you may remember Justin from being Jason Kellerman, the boyfriend of Allison Hendricks back in high school, who ends up helping Allison become a drug dealer on Orphan Black. So
what I liked about him is he wasn't a clone of Christopher Reeve,
right.
But he certainly had that square jaw, Christopher, Clark Kent, honest Midwestern look about him.
Right.
Yeah, I've absolutely. Go ahead.
No, and I was just going to say, it's kind of ironic that, because him playing a character that is essentially a take on Superman, he was actually in an episode of Smallville in addition to Orphan Black, and he played a very minor role in Smallville.
Yes.
And he was also in an episode of Lost. So I thought I'd throw that out there. But obviously his big claim to fame is Jason Kellerman on Orphan Black.
And he's Canadian, right?
He's Canadian.
Does a very good accent. Our leading lady did an amazing American accent, but she is British, correct?
Right. Yeah, Charity Wakefield, I believe, is her name.
Yeah.
Which is about as English as it gets.
Yes.
Hello, I'm Charity Wakefield. But it's just one of those totally posh British names. Yeah. But another sort of notable person in this episode was an actor by the name of, and apologies if I butcher this, Adetomiwa Eden, who played Mr. Brock in this story.
I liked him.
Yeah, he also played the rapper Tuvile in the first season of Lucifer.
Yes.
If you watched Lucifer, so yeah.
I do. Good.
So yeah, he was on Lucifer. So if you want a nice little something to check out, he's on Lucifer. Check that out.
Now, I think most people will know this by now, but I still would like to have you kind of share. There's a hidden kind of pun in the title of the episode, isn't there?
Yes. As probably a lot of you already know because you've probably been reading about it, the return of Dr. Mysterio is a very sly nod by Stephen Moffat to the television show Dr. Mysterio, which is the Mexican version of Doctor Who. When it's broadcast in Mexico, they call it Dr. Mysterio instead of Doctor Who. So it's a very clever way of saying the return of Doctor Who.
Yeah, and I love the way that the young Grant, said if you were a superhero, you would call this, and I love how the Doctor embraces that, and kind of talk about that, and we get at the end of the episode another shout out to Dr. Mysterio, so that was just so amazing. Yeah. Anyone else of consequences? I know we're going to talk in a little bit about Nardole, but any other?
We do get the return of Matt Lucas as Nardole, who obviously was last seen in the previous episode 1 year ago.
Yes.
2015 Christmas special, The Husbands of River Song. And it sounds obviously like, or looks like, that we'll be seeing much more of him in Series 10.
Were you surprised a little bit the direct connections to The Husbands of River Song?
I was kind of surprised that they connected it as much as they did, but it does make sense because if you realize that, and obviously in The Husbands of River Song, and we've talked about this, that was the story of the Doctor's real kind of like, their chance to spend some time together before River meets her end in the library, in Silence of the Library, the Forest of the Dead. So, as far as the Doctor's concerned, this is it. Although he kind of knows that River's been saved.
Mm-hmm.
But really, physically, this is the last time he can spend time with her. So there, and on this planet where they spend time, that it lasts 24 years, which is kind of acknowledged that the Doctor's been away for 24 years in this story, and it makes sense that he's also kind of depressed about it, which kind of factors in to the Doctor's character arc at the moment. And something that Nardole appears to be addressing by the end of the episode.
Yeah, and I'm going to kind of jump ahead because this is kind of a perfect time to bring it up since you're mentioning it. I'm trying to find the exact quote, though you probably with your Doctor Who brain.
I don't know about
that. In the Silence of the Library, she says, Alex Kingdon as River Song says, "My doctor," something about and she describes how amazing he is. Do you remember the quote, or do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't remember the exact quote offhand, but
yeah.
But I get what you're talking about.
Yeah, and so I just looked through IMDb and it didn't come up, but when she's talking about she's interacting with the David Tennant's doctor, and she talks about my doctor, and she describes him, and there's so much love in her face, her eyes, and her expression. So,
she's known all of them, really.
Yes.
And there may be stories, obviously, we haven't seen yet.
Right.
So where we get a even greater grasp of how close they were.
So at this point, I always thought that she was talking about the 11th Doctor, Matt Smith's doctor.
Right, and that's understandable because that was the one where the incarnation where he married her.
Yes.
Seemed to be the closest. That's the one that we've seen her spend time with the most.
Yes. But do you now think she may have been talking the 12th Doctor?
Well, again, I think she's talking about all of them, but
okay.
I would say based on relationships, she did spend 24 years with the 12th Doctor, so I would say that at least the 11th and the 12th.
Yeah.
If not the others, but I'd say obviously the 11th and the 12th she was the closest to.
Yeah, and I love the way they tied this together, Charles. I mean, I was already very happy with the episode, and I don't know if you weren't a comic book geek, would you get as much joy out of the episode? I think they wrote it open enough that
we're the wrong people to be asking about non-geek perceptions of this story. Mm-hmm. Because obviously we're both comics fans, so we kind of geek out about it because there's so many comic references in this, which we'll get into.
Yeah, and by the way, I found the thing. It's funny. I keep wishing the Doctor was here, and Anita said the Doctor is here, isn't he? He is coming back, right? And River says, when you see a photograph of someone you know, but it's from years before you knew them, it's like that. They're not quite finished. They're not done yet. Well, yes, the Doctor's here. He came when I called, just like he always does, but not my doctor. Now, my doctor, I've seen whole armies turn and run away. He'd just swagger off back to his TARDIS and open the doors with a snap of his fingers. The Doctor in the TARDIS. Next stop everywhere. Shout out to our podcast.
That's a great show title.
Yes. I think your point is he's talking about all the Doctors, but I think after this, I think she may be talking about the 12th Doctor a little bit because of the time they spent together.
It's certainly possible.
So, we will get back on agenda, but how do you think the 12th Doctor told her goodbye? After, obviously, some hugging and kissing, but I mean, like, okay, I got to go on an adventure. We've had our 29 nights. Now then, you need to go explore. Stay away from libraries.
Yeah. I'm sure it's a heartbreaking farewell,
It,
and has obviously affected the 12th Doctor quite a bit.
yeah, and
But the Doctor obviously can't tell her too much because he
no,
doesn't want to affect the timeline.
no spoilers, sweetie.
So he's going to be internalizing a lot of that.
hmm and I have seen overall, Charles, um, as I was reading about it, overall it seems like everyone loved this episode. One website, and I put it out of my mind, was this is just another sign of how it's time Moffat should leave. And I
Right.
go, bah humbug, you should get coal in your stocking.
Yeah, I'd say, well, it depends on what you want from Doctor Who. And a lot
Yeah,
of, unfortunately, like there's so many diverse um, outlooks on Doctor Who from fans. So
yeah,
always, no matter, you could have the best episode in the world. Chances are somebody's going to hate it in Doctor Who because Whovians.
yeah.
So it's just, just a question of whether more fans love the episode than hate it. And I think this is an episode where more fans are going to love it than hate it.
So and then I'm going to ask you one more River Song question, then we'll move on. Um, do you, as a fan of this show for almost your whole life,
Far too long.
I mean, right? You were young when you found this show in
Yeah, I want
Florida.
to say 1984.
Wasn't it? You're in Florida visiting your grandparents, or?
I wasn't. I don't think I was in Florida. I was down in. My family at the time was in. Like my uncle and aunt were in Columbus.
Okay,
and
I knew.
I lived in Medina, Ohio,
Okay,
outside of Akron.
so
So
because I
but I
remember
went
the
down to
story, you were
But
visiting
yeah,
relatives.
yeah, I was visiting relatives and I was bored and I was looking for flipping channels because they didn't have like cable TV, so all they had was network channels because back in the old Stone Age,
Yes.
there was only a few channels without cable that you could watch. You had like
Yeah.
your NBC, your ABC, your CBS and PBS, and maybe an independent station.
hmm
So flipping channels, came across PBS and was watching something weird on television. I was like, okay, what's this? And it was an episode called The Seeds of Doom, which we will hopefully talk about at some point.
Absolutely.
But it was very bizarre, and I saw this guy getting turned into a plant monster, and I'm like, what's up with this? Like, this is cool. And then I got a taste of it, and then later on, when I went back home and was bored on a Sunday afternoon, I actually sat down and watched the first full episode of the Keeper of Traken. I want to say the second to last, or maybe next, second or third to last Tom Baker story.
So, hey, we have a little echo. As a longtime Whovian, do you, like, as a, and I hate to say fairly newbie because now that as long as I've been watching the show, but just for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to call that. I rate River Song as one of the great characters of the modern era.
Right.
And her mythos has been, I think, something beautiful and magical. What do you think of her overall? And let's say we may never get her again. We may get her some stories, but on TV. How do you rank her?
Well, really quick, because obviously we need to get actually covering the episode.
That's what happens when you haven't had New Who in a year.
I know. You obviously want to talk River Song, and it's like River Song really isn't in this episode by all that much. River, I mean, I think she's a great character. I think Alex Kingston does a fantastic job, and I think that even though she's not really an official companion, she kind of is up there with the Brigadier in the sense that a very important person in the Doctor's life.
Okay. All right.
How's that?
That is very vague but perfect.
Well, hey, what do you want from Doctor Who?
Exactly. So, as a fellow geek, how much did you love all the comic book references?
Yeah, so obviously there are a lot of comic book references in this. I think basically this was an excuse for Stephen Moffat to write about Superman and Spider-Man, maybe with a little bit of Batman thrown in.
Yeah.
But primarily Superman, because
Yeah.
you've got this Superman archetype in the form of the Ghost, and there are a lot of Moffat was, if you saw any of the kind of behind the scenes stuff during that aired during the Christmas special on BBC America, you saw that Moffat was talking how he really wanted to explore the dual role of Clark Kent and Superman, and that kind of triangle with Lois Lane, and that keeping that secret identity and whatnot. So he finds that very interesting. A lot of writers do.
Yeah.
So especially when writing Superman. So he had fun with that, and obviously we've got Lucy Fletcher, and we find out her maiden name is Lombard. So Lucy Lombard. So we have an LL right there reference, and Lombard is a nice little reference to Steve Lombard, who was Clark Kent's kind of nemesis at WGBS.
Right.
And later becomes like the Daily Planet sports reporter. So he kind of like gives Clark a hard time in a Flash Thompson kind of way.
Absolutely. And I thought that was really nice because, Lombard was the cad who, married her, got her pregnant, and then left. So that was a really nice moment.
Yeah, and I don't know if Lucy is a direct reference, but Lois Lane's sister Lucy.
Yes.
So maybe it was just a nice way to
dated Jimmy Olsen for a while.
Dated Jimmy Olsen.
Continuities. Yes.
So we've got that, and then obviously we had a bunch of other references. We had references to John Byrne's run on Superman.
Yes.
In this, we actually got to see some pages from one of John Byrne's Superman comics. I'm trying to figure out which issue it was. I didn't have time to actually figure out the issue, but it isn't. I did notice through still shots that it's an issue that features Jimmy Olsen's mom. So that's going to probably help me track it down, but I can't remember the specific issue that was referenced.
I read somewhere, and they did not give me the issues, but I guess, not specifically, but in John Byrne's revamp of Superman, Lex Luthor was a businessman and
right. He was the one that introduced. Yeah, he was the one that introduced that concept, and a lot of people have really taken to it. It was featured in Superman the Animated Series, and like a lot of modern Superman comics. So this is something he introduced in the late '80s, and
yes.
And it's just one of those things that it makes perfect sense that he would be this big corporate bigwig.
Yeah, it really does. We also got a really fun discussion of the Doctor thinking he's clever and pointing out something that the whole world knows.
Yeah. Basically, he's the Doctor because thinks he's brilliant for figuring out that I figured out that Superman and Clark Kent are the same person, and it's like Grant looks at him and goes, dude, everybody knows this.
Yeah.
This is like, because the Doctor's like, well, I drew glasses around Superman's face and he looks exactly like Clark Kent. But obviously now the Doctor has been established. He reads comics, but apparently he wasn't reading Superman comics.
Yes. I find it great joy that in the Doctor Who universe that Batman, Superman, the Hulk, Spider-Man. I bet there's an Avengers movie directed by Joss Whedon in the Doctor Who universe.
Yes. Then we also got like a Siegel and Schuster reference.
Yes.
Which is a reference to Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, the creators of Superman. And then, of course, we got a bunch of Superman movie references from the 1978 Christopher Reeve classic.
Yes.
My all-time favorite comic book film.
Every year.
To this day.
Every year, new contenders come, but that movie remains King of Charles Mountain.
Pretty much.
Yes.
It's as far as I'm concerned, it's the definitive comic book movie. And it's such a great film. And, so yeah, you got references like Justin Chatwin pushing Grant's glasses back on his forehead by like putting his finger to the middle of the nose bridge, just like Christopher Reeve did. You had this scene on the rooftop where you had Lucy and the ghost having dinner.
Yes.
Where she interviews him. That's straight out of Superman the movie.
Including Do You Eat?
Exactly. Including the Do You Eat reference, which is pretty overt. So yeah, you got a ton of Superman references in this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then you also got Spider-Man references.
What happens when you get bitten by a radioactive spider, Charles?
Yeah. Well, according to the doctor, it should be radiation poisoning.
Yes.
So, and I was like, yes, it should be. But but Stanley was very big on radiation for origins.
He was.
But,
yeah. I also, I did not catch till the second time I watched it, how Grant got his name.
Right.
Did you catch that the first time? Of course you did.
Yeah, it's kind of named after the jewel.
Right.
The gemstone that he ends up ingesting.
Yes.
It's like the ghost of something.
The ghost of love and wishes.
Thank you.
Yes.
So so basically he shortens that. But my question, and I posted this on Twitter, is like, well, if he calls himself the Ghost, shouldn't he look a little bit more like an actual ghost?
Yeah. I don't know if I liked his costume very much.
Shouldn't he have like kind of a spectral look about him a little bit? But So that was my whole issue.
Absolutely.
But he did. And he also got. And Justin Chatwin kind of confirmed this. I had suspected this, but Justin Chatwin confirmed this in those behind-the-scenes footage where that he tried to throw a little Michael Keaton in with the Ghost's voice.
I think so. Yes.
With the raspy voice.
Yeah. I also. So as we move on, I guess Moffat has said that he was very interested in writing a Lois and Clark story, and I do think, in my mind, that was the highlight of the episode, their relationships and the Doctor kind of watching, not quite as a fairy godmother, but just as, seeing this relationship. We'll get to the villains in a minute, but by far, I thought their Grant and Lucy's interaction was one of the highlights for me. How about you? What did you think of their love story?
Yeah, I almost wanted to call this Lucy and Grant, the New Adventures of the Ghost.
Yeah, I will take that. I will
as a nod to Lois and Clark, the New Adventures of Superman.
I want to see that episode. We need another TV let's
spin-off.
Yeah, let's do the 4th of July episode, a special Doctor Who spin-off episode. Yeah, that's awesome.
But so yeah, you basically had Lucy, who is a news reporter, just like Lois Lane. She's obviously gets into trouble here because Superman and Doctor Who, obviously. She goes to this press conference and at Harmony Shoals, and we find out that she has a kid. And Grant, in his real identity, he's the nanny for her baby. Yes. Which apparently the baby ends up getting abandoned quite a bit, if you notice, because like Grant's off being the ghost, and Lucy thinks he's taking care of her kid, but so who's actually watching the baby? The Doctor actually gets on Grant's case about like, hey, you left the baby alone.
And any man worthy of that name, I do think that it's because we saw the episode happen mostly at night. I would think in the daytime he would have been more attentive, and the baby wouldn't have just been left in the crib the whole time. I'm sure he was interactive, and Grant did other things with, the baby.
Unless there was a big emergency during the day.
Well, then you'd have him in the little rolling, the little rockabye chair.
Right.
So yeah. And he did bring up a good point. As fast as he can be there in their room just as quickly as someone coming from the living room to the bedroom. So, did I, there's just something about a reporter not only works with Superman, but there is a long tradition of reporters in Doctor Who.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a nice thing.
Yeah, like Sarah Jane Smith.
Yeah. Now, I enjoyed the squeezy toy, but I didn't quite understand it.
I wanted the Doctor to throw that squeeze toy out the window so bad.
Yeah.
I was annoyed with that thing from the get-go. And the way Lucy kept grabbing that so angrily and shaking it just drove me nuts. And I figured, the 12th Doctor, the way he is, just would be instantly repelled by that thing.
Well, because, a few years ago, we had the...
Then he ends up taking it with him. I'm like, what's up with that, you idiot?
Right.
Dropping it in a black hole or something.
We had the one-word truth test, right, a few years ago on a special. And
right.
So she has no way of knowing when he's lying or not. And she just, I don't like what you're saying, so I'm going to squeeze this. I didn't, I mean, it was okay. I just didn't understand it very much.
Yeah, I just thought it was a very off-putting way for her to call out the Doctor on his lies.
Yes.
Or, his lack of openness.
But I do think Grant and Lucy had a lot of chemistry, and I was kind of glad that she reached the point where she realized how Grant was, and I thought it was a nice point.
Yeah, that's a good point, because she does have this moment of clarity where and just like Lois does.
Yeah.
Where you have, instead of Lois realizing that she's in love with Clark more than Superman, Lucy realizes she's more in love with Grant than the Ghost.
Yeah, and when he's holding the bomb up, which, by the way, great moment, right?
Yeah, right.
And
he
he's
does
like,
it with his left hand. He's like, he's not even left-handed.
Yeah, and it's because, well, and he's holding the baby monitor to show. When she says, you need to be in costume or something, and he says, well, it's kind of hard, and she goes, let me help, and she puts his glasses on, I just thought was so sweet.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you expect her to, rip open his shirt.
Yeah.
And reveal his costume underneath, but what she does is put his glasses on.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a nice little.
Yes.
That would actually make a really good Superman moment. But
yes, it would. I was not a fan, I'm going to confess up front, when I heard that Nardole was going to be the companion.
A lot of people aren't. Or weren't.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know.
Matt Lucas, okay, he was funny for an episode, but do we really want him tagging along? So what do you think now after seeing him in this episode?
2 big thumbs up.
You're Team Nardole now.
I am Team Nardole. I thought, Charles, he had just enough humor.
Right.
The snarkiness of the Doctor. Well, I'm busy saving a world. That's what you do every time the conversation gets serious, And just, he was, I do think, does the Doctor just let anyone drive the TARDIS now? Just here's the keys to the Ferrari. Go away.
I think that's a very important question, because I brought this up on Twitter. I was like, why is Nardole piloting the TARDIS?
Yeah.
And more importantly, how is he doing it? Because as from what we saw of him in The Husbands of River Song, he wasn't really all that bright.
No.
So here's the question, okay, so where did he get that skill? Maybe if River taught him how to pilot the TARDIS, but one, why would the Doctor even let Nardole pilot the
Right.
TARDIS? So, I mean,
So
it's one thing if it okay, Nardole knew how to fly the TARDIS and he had to make an errand and come back. But
yeah,
once he came back, the Doctor is watching Nardole pilot the TARDIS instead of trying to take it away from him.
yeah. What do you think? Do you have answers, or are you just still just?
And we got an explanation, sort of an explanation that because remember the end of Husbands of River Song, Nardole's head was removed from his body and placed inside that robot on that
Yeah.
Hydroflax, and so the Doctor makes a mention that he restored or reattached Nardole's head back to his body.
And
So
Nardole
the question is,
Nardole makes a joke about, oh, well, that's just because you're worried you're going to be lonely, right?
right. So my question is, did the Doctor make any modifications to Nardole's brain in the process? Or is Nardole perhaps something else? Like maybe he's not the real Nardole, maybe he's an android version of Nardole?
Mm.
Or is this something else? I mean, it's a mystery now about what the deal is with Nardole, and I'm sure we'll get a payoff, hopefully, by season's end of Series 10. But there are some questions, I think, around Nardole right now about what his deal is. For a while there, I was wondering if he was actually a hallucination of the Doctor, because a lot of people weren't really talking to him. Although you did have him until he showed up at the press conference, and he's asking where the restroom is, like where the little boy's room is.
Yes.
So there, obviously, it's obviously some people are seeing him, so he's not a hallucination. But he doesn't really seem like he's the same Nardole that was in the Husbands of River Song.
And maybe that's one of the reasons I liked him. I really did like the character. I thought he was just the right amount of snark and funny, and it was a nice combination. So very happy.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't we talk about this? That how maybe when we first talked about the news of Matt Lucas returning as Nardole, how I kind of compared him to Donna Noble, because at the first time we saw Donna Noble in The Runaway Bride, you didn't really like her all that much,
Right.
And then when she actually appeared in Series 4, you kind of warmed up to her a little bit, that she was a much more interesting character.
I think that's fair. I think he was.
So maybe like that reinvention.
Yeah.
For the series, full series, as opposed to Christmas special.
I think you're very right. I think you are very correct. So I'm, and it appears we're going to get to keep him, right?
Yeah, I mean, as far as I know, he's going to be around when we get Bill, Pearl Mackie, appearing as Bill. So there'll be 2 companions apparently in the TARDIS, not just the one.
Yes, and tease. Stay tuned for us to discuss a little bit about that coming up.
Exactly.
Right. Okay, so we got a repeat villain, right? Yeah. Now, I thought they were okay. I mean, this was, like I said, I think the purpose of this episode was to give us a love story, and for the Doctor Who universe to explore, that type of story. But I thought the villains were certainly okay. They weren't amazing. It was just kind of, they were there, and it was what it was.
The way I got it, I took it was like a prelude to something bigger.
And
because these aliens, who we don't really even know their name,
right?
They're just like these aliens that are behind Harmony Shoals, and we find out that their whole deal is that their whole master plan is to create what appears to be an alien invasion, have everybody freak out, so the world leaders have to huddle in this room, and that's where they can get a hold of them and insert alien brains in their bodies.
Right.
and take over the world that way. That's their master plan, as we find out. So obviously the Doctor thwarts this plan, but we do get that little tease at the end where one of the brains survives and it basically takes over a unit soldier's body.
Yeah.
And makes a comment that Osgood's going to be involved with this.
Yes.
So are we going to see the return of Osgood at some point?
I hope so.
Dealing with this down the road.
Yeah, I think we will, and I thought that was a very slick little. We better contact Osgood, so maybe like she's been promoted.
Yes.
Yeah, that was slick. Because I did like that when Unit was kind of catching up and seeing things. So we didn't get a clear ending. It did send that. So I think you're right.
No. Their plan this time was thwarted, but there's still a threat.
Yeah.
And we'll pick up presumably later on.
So, do you think Grant is going to behave and not continue to do things?
Now, that's one of the things that frustrated me about this, because essentially at the end of the story, which I kept waiting to find out, okay, like Grant's really a brain in a jar, or that he's completely hallucinating this whole thing in like a virtual reality or something. But no, we actually get the story leaves off with an actual superhero established in the Doctor Who universe. And he still has his powers. So the question is, like, okay, what's keeping him from like actually going off and rescuing the Doctor at some point as a superhero?
And I think
so. I'm kind of wondering why that was left like that. I would have taken away his powers, or something.
Yeah,
like he has to give up his powers to save Lucy or what have you.
Yeah, I kind of like that they left it open, where he's not going to do this, but you think he will. I think in my mind, he will be. What did they call?
I guess it won't be a big deal if we just never see the ghost again.
Right. What do we call?
But you have to wonder why we're not going to see the ghost again.
Did Smallville? I'm drawing a blank. Was it the Blur?
Yeah, they call him the Blur before he becomes Superman.
Yeah, so, maybe they'll be, because Lucy does say, oh, you do exist. So right. I think we'll never see him again, and there'll be Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow episode, and Grant will have a mustache. Shout out to Neil Gaiman. Whatever happened to
or Alan Moore.
Alan Moore, thank you. God, that was dumb. Yes.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. But but you have to wonder, like, okay, next time there's an alien invasion, why isn't the ghost getting involved?
I guess the same reason why Torchwood used to not always get involved. They would ran away. But yes, I think it was.
I think it creates more problems than it solves.
Yeah. But I was okay with it. I think we'll see what's happening. Any other thoughts before we kind of go through rating the episode and quotes?
Yeah, just one other thing that I wanted to bring up before we get into quotes. We have a new Doctor alias, Dan Dangerous.
Yeah, yes.
Which I thought was pretty funny.
And doing well with the double initials.
But
right?
still not my favorite, because that's got to be Dr. Funkenstein.
Yes. That was awesome. So
anything else you want to talk about this episode?
No. You let me go down my River Song. River Song. I'm trying to think of the. I guess the River Song stream, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah,
River stream.
Yes. Yeah. So no, I thought
with
was
musical accompaniment by Bruce Springsteen's The River album.
Yes, indeed.
There you go.
I just was, and sometimes a starving man enjoys any feast he gets.
Right.
And after a year of No New Who, I also loved they kind of embraced that because they acknowledged he'd been, gone the
Away.
24 years
Right.
and everything. So I thought that was really nice. How about quotes?
Quotes. Okay. The first quote I have is this exchange between the Doctor and Grant.
Okay.
And the Doctor says, "Why do they call him Spider-Man? Don't they like him?" Grant responds, "He was bitten by a radioactive spider, and guess what happens?" The Doctor replies, "Radiation poisoning, I should think." Grant says, "No, he's got special powers." The Doctor replies, "What? Hair loss, vomiting, and death. Fat lot of use."
Yeah, I love that one. Other beginning is Grant, I always get a cold at Christmas. And the Doctor, me too, or an invasion.
A Christmas invasion, exactly.
Yes.
Then the Doctor makes this one comment while he's at Harmony Shoals. He says, "Brains with the minds of their own? Nobody will believe that. This is America."
Yes. Um, Another early, by the way, how brilliant was that 8 to 10 minute, opening before the credits it was a perfect little mini episode.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that. It opens up with comic book panels as the
Yes.
way to frame the storyline,
Right.
which I thought was a very unusual but clever
Yeah.
way of doing it.
Uh,
Definitely a first for Doctor Who.
yeah, you got a cough and a slight case of levitation. You also brought up the fact that Smallville already mentioned that
Yes.
adolescent has
Yeah.
caused some of the side
Yeah.
effects that Grant was seeing.
Yeah, basically, yeah. That they kind of use it as a metaphor for arousal, sexual
Yes.
arousal. So yeah, that Smallville kind of did that gag first, but
Still well done.
maybe yeah, still it's an obvious gag. So a lot,
Yeah.
you didn't
Yeah.
really have to watch Smallville to kind of
No.
figure out that gag.
You got a couple more?
Yeah, I do. Another Doctor quote. He says, "What do all the rich men do when all the fighting starts? They find the safest place to hide themselves away, and then they send all the young people to die."
I thought that was really well done. I loved when.
And very true, sadly.
Yes, sadly. A couple of quick quips. Lucy going, "The bat signal is an app now?"
Right. That was a good one.
And the Doctor going, "You're a superhero and a nanny?" I love those.
Well, they did have a show called Super Nanny once. So
yes, they did. There you go.
All right. And last quote I have is this exchange between Nardole and the Doctor as the ship is crashing.
Yeah.
Nardole exclaims, "You are completely out of your mind." And the Doctor replies, "How is that news to anyone?"
Yeah. I did not write this down. I was running short on time. We had a classic, and I figured you would have this one. There have been many attempts to conquer Earth. I've lost count. His talk about how they've all failed. I thought that was really well done. A couple left. As much as possible for a human male, try not to be an idiot.
Right.
I'm always okay, which is very much a shout out, has been said many times by the Doctor.
Right.
And then her name was River Song. They were together for a while. They were very happy. And then she died a long time ago in a library.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So you kind of get the impression that Nardole is there to get the Doctor through this grieving process.
Yes. I totally agree. How would you rank it? How would you rate it?
I enjoyed this. It wasn't my favorite Christmas special, and it wasn't my favorite story, but I did appreciate the fact that Moffat tried something different.
Okay.
And it was definitely original episode, I thought. So I give it 8.5 out of 10 brains in a jar.
So I think maybe I was just really in the mood to see Doctor Who.
Right.
I love the charm of it. I love the mixing of the superhero genre. I do know that Christopher Reeves was really my first Superman. And I remember going and You Will Believe a Man Can Fly, and I did. So with all that combined, I gave it 9.5 out of 10 baby monitors.
Okay, so what was the half-point deduction?
Um, just because the squeaky doll.
I deducted a half point for that thing too, so there you go.
Yeah, no, I know that, and I think the only reason I'm not giving it a 10 is I know a lot of this is just sentimental. I
Right.
am not I am not judging this independently as a story in a Christmas special, but Charles, it's been so long since we had New Who, and also to try something different, a
Right.
different kind of story, and to tie it to such a silly Christmas special last year, which had such an emotional ending, and then to tie that in to kind of,
It's almost like a sequel to the Husbands of River Song.
in a lot of ways, it is, and so yes, so that's I think why it's so high.
Okay. Fair
Now,
enough. Yes.
Charles.
Yes.
This is a quick turnaround because, as
Yes,
you guys
it
don't know,
was.
we are recording this December 26th. Charles and I both were off work.
In the morning.
In the morning.
Early afternoon, really.
Yes.
But
But did you have time for?
This is the afternoon after the Christmas special aired.
Do we have, with that short of turnaround, was it even humanly possible to have a reverse the polarity?
Well, no, but fortunately for you, I'm more human than human,
Ah, very nice.
which is our motto.
Yes.
That's a Blade Runner reference.
Okay.
So yes, so I do have a reverse the polarity. It's a kind of a tenuous one because, as we talked about, this is a very original. The Return of Dr. Mysterio was a pretty original story by Stephen Moffat. There aren't any really superhero stories in Doctor Who to compare this to.
Yes.
So I went back to 1976 for The Brain of Morbius.
Ah, okay.
Which is the fifth serial of season 13, written by Robin Bland, in air quotes, which is a pseudonym for Terrence Dick's script being rewritten by Robert Holmes.
Okay.
And so we have on the planet Karn, a planet which may sound familiar to you.
Yes.
We have the fourth Doctor and Sarah Jane arriving after being diverted there by the Time Lords. And it's kind of stormy out, so they go to this nearby castle to seek shelter. They meet Solon, who's basically a mad scientist who's an authority on microsurgical techniques and tissue transplants.
Wait a minute. Okay.
Yeah. And the doctor recalls that, Solon, didn't you join the cult of Morbius? This, as in the Morbius, who was one of the criminal masterminds of like the most criminal-minded Time Lords until he was executed for leading a rebellion against the Time Lords. That Morbius. So the Doctor and Sarah Jane, to kind of shorten things up, they end up getting help from the Sisterhood of Karn grudgingly because the Sisterhood really aren't fond of outsiders, and they kind of think that the Doctor originally was at first sent there by the Time Lords to seal their elixir of life. So, that same elixir that the Eighth Doctor took when he regenerated. Right. So everybody eventually learns that the brain of Morbius, guess what, is still alive. Dun, dun, dun. And it's kept in a jar. So there we have brains in a jar. All
right, nice.
There we go. Until Solon can place him inside the Doctor's body, because that way he can get back into a Time Lord body. However, and Morbius ends up placed in the body of this really silly, bizarre-looking patchwork creature with a fishbowl head, because that's where his brain is. And then he's got like a lobster claw, and he's got like a human arm, and a fuzzy body and whatnot. So he looks really weird. Basically, it's a Frankenstein metaphor.
Okay.
And So Morbius ends up seeing his reflection going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs and tries to kill everybody, but then he ends up getting eventually chased off the cliff by the Sisterhood and dies.
Nice.
So there you go. It's like I said, very tenuous, but
No,
brains.
I actually think that's a very solid with the brains and such.
Yep.
Well done.
And like that's the very first appearance of the Sisterhood of Karn, so you should check it out if nothing else for that.
Absolutely.
And it's a great little story.
Yes, and as always, it's fun to go through the Christmas specials that they repeat and everything.
So I kind of pulled that one out.
Yeah, well done, sir. Well done. So, Charles, let's do a little producing on the air. What are we thinking for 2017? I have some ideas, but I want to suggest also...
Yes.
Charles is on the naughty list because I opened my mail coming back from Louisiana, and there is a package from Charles. We do not normally exchange Christmas presents, and he has sent me something.
How is that naughty? I think that's on the nice list.
It is the nice list, but now then I didn't have anything for you. But yes, thank you, Charles.
You don't have to have anything.
I am opening this right now.
That's the whole point of Christmas, Jesse.
Yes, and we're seeing as I open this
it live on the air.
Yes, the 10th Doctor Who, the 10th Doctor's Adventures, Volume 1.
Yep. So
nice.
So you have a nice version, CD version, and it's got some bonus material in there.
Oh, nice.
So I thought you would appreciate that.
I do. Thank you so much. It is, we loved talking these episodes.
There is a bonus disc full of behind-the-scenes stuff. So I thought you might appreciate that.
I do. Thank you very much, Charles.
Merry Christmas.
Well, Merry Christmas to you, too. What else are we looking at doing in 2017?
Well, what I was thinking, obviously we've got 4 months to kill before the first episode of Series 10 debuts.
Yes.
So when, we obviously saw the trailer for that this time.
Yeah, by the way, if you go to Charles's blog of Geeky Things, he breaks down the latest trailer.
Coffee in the hot.
Yes. So I will not, any highlights you want to bring up on that you want to cover?
Well, there's a couple of things I will bring up in general, but if you want to read more, you can go to my blog, Damn Good Coffee and Hot.
Absolutely.
But this trailer I found interesting for two reasons. Not just because we learn a little bit more about Bill, his new companion, played by Pearl Mackie, but we see some creatures who appear to be. One woman is shown with water running down her face constantly.
Yes.
Where's the last time we saw that? Was in the waters of Mars.
Yes.
So we may be seeing the return of the flood, or something similar. But we may be getting the flood back. And there was another scene, really quick, where you saw this man with braided hair in a white uniform kind of get thrown across into a bulkhead on a spaceship.
Yes.
So a lot of us are wondering, because this was a scene that involved the Daleks, we're wondering if this is a reference to a classic Tom Baker story called Destiny of the Daleks, which introduced a race of aliens that fought against the Daleks called the Mavellans. So we're kind of wondering if after all these years we're going to see the Mavellans again. And so we'll see. But it could be just fans reading into it, but it looks a lot like the Mavellans, so we'll see. Because they all had braided hair, and they were very like almost like late 80s, late 70s, early 80s glam rock in their appearance, but very disco. But curious to see if we're going to see those.
Okay.
See the villains again. So I thought that was interesting.
Like all new companions, you kind of have what do we need to see?
Right.
But I think Billy has potential.
Right.
I know one of the things that they have said, she definitely is of modern era. She is not from the 80s, despite her T-shirt. in the discussion. So that's great.
I was kind of disappointed by that because I kind of wanted to see a character not from the present day.
Yes, I agree with that.
But I do like the fact that she's old enough to be at university.
Yes.
So even though she doesn't apparently attend university, she works in the cafeteria.
Yes, and she does chips.
Yeah,
right.
That kind of sounds a little Rose Tyler-ish from School Reunion, doesn't it?
It does. It does a lot.
But she also does call the doctor professor.
Yes.
And like I call him, I don't know if he's a professor or a lecturer. Now,
yes.
Professor was what the Doctor's former companion Ace called him during his 7th incarnation.
Yes.
So I don't know if Bill is supposed to be like a modern version of Ace, perhaps.
Yeah, I know that's something you're going to be very happy to see.
Yeah.
So good. So what are your thoughts on 2017? I have some suggestions, but want to know what you think?
Okay, well, one of my things that we haven't really covered in our blast to the past,
yes,
on Doctor Who, as we reverse the polarity back to classic stories, we haven't really covered multi-story arcs,
right?
Like the big arcs.
Yeah.
To use a modern reference, like say that 3-episode The Master Trilogy, where you have Utopia, The Sound of Drums, and The Last of the Time Lords.
Mm-hmm.
So my suggestion is to go ahead and cover some of those big arc stories. And what I would like to do for episode 72, our first episode of 2017, I would like to start off with the Ribos operation, which is the very first story in the Key to Time saga during the 4th Doctor era, Tom Baker, which introduced Romana.
Okay, I like that. I like it a lot. That sounds like a great idea.
So I don't know what you had in mind, but that's what I had in mind. No. And then I thought we'd tackle some other stuff after, some other multi-arcs after we do the Key to Time.
I think that sounds perfect.
So like every episode, we'd go through like the first part, then the second story, the third story, and so on until the end of the arc.
That sounds great. That sounds wonderful.
So what was your idea?
I want us to take a slight break. I don't know if we want to do a bunch of them, but I want us to at least do a special spin-off episode of what the creator said was the American version of what he wanted to do for Doctor Who, which is The Middleman.
Okay.
So, and this will be a one-off, but that DVD set is on your way, and it is absolutely.
So I shouldn't feel very bad about sending you a Christmas present, should
exactly. It is. I want you to. We're gonna watch at least the first one. I want you to. That'll be an hour of your time, and then we can discuss offline. But there is a lot of things that he says. I can never say his name, the guy who created it, but he said he wanted to do something like Doctor Who, and it is an absolutely wonderful series, and so we should at least discuss the pilot and discuss the potential on it.
Well, let me watch the pilot first, and then we'll see if there's enough Doctor Who material to support an episode.
Right. Well,
because it has absolutely nothing to do with Doctor Who. There are no Doctor Who stars. There's no Doctor Who characters, so it doesn't really relate to Doctor Who. It's just kind of like Doctor Who. Right?
But we are in the desolate coming up on trying to find.
There's so much stuff out there that we could cover.
I know.
There's the Sarah Jane Adventures. It's all kinds of things.
Okay.
But
I'm telling you.
But tell you what, let me watch the first episode.
I will tell you, you will love the show.
A fair word. I'll give it, the first episode, and we'll see how it goes.
Because, I watched some Classic Who and became a fan, so there we go.
Okay, well,
all right.
Yes. I promise I will watch the first episode.
Very good.
I'm on record now. So
how can people find you, Charles?
I have to watch it. All right, so I'm at Charles Skaggs on the Twitter machine. at Charles Skaggs on the Instagram or Facebook, of course. Google Plus for all you crazy kids on the Google Plus. Shout out to Karen.
Mm-hmm.
And as with the aforementioned blog of geeky things, Damn Good Coffee and Hot, where I talk about Doctor Who, Next Stop Everywhere, and all kinds of stuff. Class, Torchwood, Sarah Jane, you name it.
And
As well as and Superman, of course.
don't you have a possible new podcast showing up shortly in the Southgate Media feed?
Yes. So our patrons at Southgate Media Group were kind enough to allow me to do a Twin Peaks podcast, which just recently recorded the first episode with Zan Sprouse, the wife of Chris Sprouse, comic book artist, and she's a longtime friend and fellow hardcore Twin Peaks geek. So that was a lot of fun. Apparently we're going to have to wait and see how things are going on the Southgate end because they've had some unfortunate family troubles. So I have no idea when the first episode will be out, but it's been recorded and submitted. So hopefully soon. So please check us out on Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast. We have a Facebook page, and you can reach us on Twitter at GhostwoodCast. So you can reach us there.
Yeah, in fact, that's one of the.
So please follow and like us there because we could obviously we're just starting out. We could use some love from all of you.
Absolutely, and a perfect time to go back to Twin Peaks and rewatch a little.
It's great, yeah. And with Doctor Who on hiatus, you've got the time. So
absolutely,
as just Jesse pointed out. So
yes. Always good to explore.
Jesse, where can they find you?
I am at Jesse Jackson DFW, and you can hear me on Set Lusting Bruce Springsteen. I have 2 episodes coming up the week after Christmas. One with a very fun Bruce fan that competed in the Ironman in Florida. And she talked about how Bruce music helped her during her training. And then at the end of the week, I have a special guest from United Kingdom where we talk 2016, the year of Springsteen, and we do a Springsteen review episode. So that's going to be very nice. Charles, I am glad you had a wonderful Christmas. I wish the very best.
Now, before we sign off, though, I want to tell everybody where they can find Next Stop Everywhere.
Oh, yes, please.
So at Next Stop Everywhere, you can find us at Next Stop SMG on the Twitter machine.
Yes.
Or you can reach us at Next Stop Everywhere SMG, I know that's a long name, at gmail.com. So you can write to us there, or it's the easier way is to write to us on Twitter or on Facebook at Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast.
Absolutely.
So please give us some likes there too. That'd be awesome.
That would be very lovely.
And for those who already have, thank you very much for supporting the show.
Absolutely. So Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's, Charles.
Yeah, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's to you. Let's hope 2017 is better than 2016.
Tough year for musicians.
Tough year for everybody, I think.
Yes. And by the way, we made it through the year with no Doctor Who.
Well, no, we had lots of Doctor Who. We had lots of classic Who.
Yes, we did.
We had even some modern Who.
Yeah, between the books. We've done audio dramas. We've done classic episodes. We've revisited modern era.
And we got everybody through the long hiatus, and we'll get you through the next 4 months just as easily. So we've got your back here at Next Stop Everywhere.
It looks like April. I saw IMDb, right?
That's the current rumored time is April, sometime in April.
Yeah.
Sometime in spring. So perfect time for regeneration, springtime.
Yes, and I may be covering the new season of Sherlock for Southgate Media.
That is awesome. Looking forward to that because that premieres on New Year's Day.
Absolutely.
So yeah, and obviously we're going to have a lot to talk about what's coming up in series 10, excuse me.
Yes.
So we'll have a lot to talk about there. And also, Class will be debuting, so we can maybe have Jesse watch that first episode of Class.
Yes, I am so.
And we may have to watch others because apparently they teased a very familiar Doctor Who monster later in the season, which I have not watched.
Yeah, we will have to determine. I think we are going to have to at least spend a few minutes talking about it.
Yeah.
When they come out. We may not do a full episodes, but we'll at least cover. Meanwhile, in Class episodes. So good. Well, listeners, I hope you had a wonderful holiday. I hope be safe New Year's Eve, and we are wishing you the best of 2017. And we're going to end with, it was a present, and it wasn't supposed to be open till Christmas Day. Honestly, who opens their Christmas presents early? Okay, shut up, everyone. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Three, two, one. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Next Stop Everywhere, your podcast all about Bruce Springsteen, Christmas dinner, and prizes. I am one of your... Yeah, Bruce Springsteen. God, I am thinking. Let's try this again.